Okay, so here is the book, Artist on Comic Art. I'm going to flip right to the J. Scott Campbell section. He was one of my favorite artists at the time, so you can see it just opens very naturally to his section over here. This book is well worn and well used. Perhaps in a future video, we could go a little bit more into depth on some of the parts of this chapter that are really cool to look at. But for this particular video, I just wanted to talk about his approach to how he creates a page. I was reminded of his process because recently on Instagram, there was a video of him actually talking about this very process. And I think he was using these exact 4 pages as an example. I thought that was pretty cool because when I had this book as a much younger person, I would really study his process, and I was very much fascinated by how he was able to get so much detail on such small drawings. So the way he would go about laying out and penciling his pages, at least during this Danger Girl era, this was more in the late 90s, early 2000s, was that he would take a full sheet of 11 by 17 Bristol board paper. So 11 by 17 is really the standard size for American comics to be drawn at full size. That's the size that before it gets shrunk down to the size that you're used to seeing in the comic book store, 11 by 17 is the full size that the artist would generally draw their original pages on. So what this shows is a full 11 by 17 page that normally an artist would draw 1 page on. What he would do is he would divide it into 4 equal parts, each part representing its own page. So an 11 by 17 sheet of paper is a bigger sized sheet of paper, but when you divide it into 4 parts, now all of a sudden you're not working with the biggest amount of space. So each one of these pages was really drawn pretty small. And it's fascinating to see just how much detail and how much characterization and all the composition of the page was really all there at that very, very small size. Okay, really quick, just for context, this is an 11 by 17 sheet of paper. So this is what J. Scott Campbell was dividing into 4 pages. So just to give you a little bit of a context in terms of the size that he was working at, each one of the 4 pages that he was working on was actually pretty small, much smaller than an individual comic size itself. And he was able to get that level of detail. It's pretty cool. That's something that I was very fascinated by back then when I was trying to understand his process, and I still am today. I don't think I could get that level of detail or even be able to see that much of the compositions and kind of flesh them out at this size. You could also see it's pretty cool that he's indicating where the words are going to go. He was co-writing this series, so he was, I guess, working out some of the dialogue and narration and all of that, while also accounting for the space that the words were going to go in, which is a really important part of the compositional process of creating a comic page, because of course, if there's going to be words, the word bubbles and the narration boxes are just as important a part of the composition as the characters and the backgrounds and everything else. From what he states in this article here, what he would do is he would work out the pages in this way, 4 to a sheet. And then when he got it to a level, I guess a level like this, that was clear enough for him to then work off of, he would blow up each one of these images full size onto an 11 by 17 sheet of paper. He would blow it up full size like this and lightbox it and work on it more detailed at this full size. And then presumably render on top of that and make it a finished penciled page before he sent it off to his inker. This particular Danger Girl series really felt in many ways like a Hollywood movie blockbuster in terms of its presentation, its pacing, its attention to detail. So like a Hollywood blockbuster, a lot would go into the making of these things. A lot of time, a lot of specific attention to detail. And perhaps even less spontaneity, as the artist was going for something very much controlled and specific to his vision. Because of that, it seems like this approach and this process really worked for him and the style and the type of comic that he was making at the time. Now, you might ask why he would draw it so small to begin with in the first place. I think that's a matter of taste. Every artist has their own particular approach and the way they feel comfortable creating things. Some artists feel comfortable drawing much smaller at first. Some artists feel comfortable drawing at full size, as we'll see in a little bit. But I think one of the benefits to drawing something so small at first is that your eye is able to sort of capture the whole thing in a thumbnail size. And a lot of comic book artists will do tiny thumbnails, certainly most of them not at this level of detail, but even something that's a little bit more rough and even sometimes stick figures. Essentially, what you want to see is the skeleton of the page, the bare bones of the page, the basic storytelling from panel to panel. The idea is that if it can work at this very small size and make sense visually, then once you blow it up to the printed size or the size that you're eventually going to draw it at, it will all make sense and be clear to the reader. That's the basic idea behind working small. And then it seems like in his case, I would assume that he has an inclination to draw smaller because he feels just more comfortable drawing smaller. I think it's just different for every artist. And that's probably why these pages were drawn with so much detail at this very small size. Compositionally, if he's able to lay these things out and make sense of them at this size, then once he blows it up, all the compositions are worked out, and then he just has more room essentially to do all the detail, rendering, and all that cool stuff. I think also doing it this way, he's able to look at each page as it is part of a spread. That's also really helpful from a storytelling perspective because he's seeing what pages face each other and how the story might flow, not only just as individual pages, but as pages that are going to eventually be next to each other. Comics are this sort of like Russian doll of compositions. It's not only the composition of each individual panel, but then it's the composition of each page, but then it's the composition of each spread, and then it's the composition of the whole book as it flows from page to page. So to be able to kind of get a handle on that from a macro perspective this way, I think is probably very helpful. Is it a little bit of overkill because these are essentially just thumbnail sketches? From my perspective, I would probably say yes, but that's just my sensibilities. Different strokes for different folks. It's really fascinating, though, to see his process with all of this. I think it's really incredible. Hello, this is just a reminder that like every other podcast or YouTube channel that you watch or listen to, I also have a Patreon page that I would love for you to support. So here's my pitch. I have different tiers. I do things like behind the scenes stuff where I go a little bit more in depth on my process. I show a lot more than just like the shorter process reels and shorts that I post around the internet. I also do a monthly Q&A. Every month I try and get a little bit more articulate and a little bit more concise with my answering. That is an art within itself, I can assure you. And for the higher tiers, I offer things like a 60-minute video call once a month where I try and help you with whatever art challenges you might be having in this moment, whether it's on a particular project that you're trying to work through, or just more broadly speaking, trying to become a better illustrator, comic artist, work on your portfolio, whatever it might be. I'm hoping that whatever information, knowledge, and experience I have, I can share that with you to hopefully assist you in becoming a better artist than you were before you started meeting with me. In addition to that, I will also send you a drawing that I make just for you every month in the mail, an original black and white ink drawing from my hand to your mailbox. Above all of that, if you're a crazy person and want to help me at the highest tier, you will get all of those other rewards. Plus, you get to pick once a month one page of comic art that I have been working on and making. So I would love for the YouTube channel to keep going. I would love to be able to make a lot of these cool things that I have in my head, make them into a reality. As far as comics, art books, illustration projects, there's so many things that I want to do, but I need your help to do them. So if you're interested in helping out, I hope there's something there on my Patreon page that is of interest to you and can be of value to you. Also, if you don't want to sign up at all, Patreon has this cool thing now where they have like these collections. So you won't get access to any of the other stuff, but you can get access to very specific content and just sort of buy it outright. Currently, I have a 5-part video series called How I Make an Illustration. If you just want to watch those 5 videos and get a much deeper look into my process of creating a mainly black and white with some tonal work illustration, you can buy that outright for a very affordable price without having to sign up for the monthly Patreon. So I would love to see you over there in some capacity. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.